Salut! Today we're going to learn how to conjugate the verb vendre, which means to sell, in the present of the indicative. We will also learn how to conjugate the verbs vouloir and pouvoir. And finally, we'll learn the difference between oui and si in French. Before we get started, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and download the class notes below if you want to follow along. There is also there a link to the book on archive.org to read some more examples and explanations. Alright. First, the verb vendre is a verb of the third group, but the way it is conjugated works for about 20 other verbs. I'll show you that with the verb attendre, which means to wait, the verb perdre, which means to lose, the verb entendre, which means to hear, and the verb répondre, which means to answer. But before we get started on the conjugation, I want to bring up a concept you'll need in the future. This is just a simple introduction, nothing fancy to remember. Okay, see, an object after a verb can be either direct or indirect. For example, let's use two English verbs, to eat and to reply. When you add an object after to eat, for example, I eat cake, there's no preposition. So cake is a direct object. But with the verb to reply, you would say, for example, I reply to Fred. Here you have the preposition to. You cannot say I reply Fred. Fred here is an indirect object. If that helps, think of the preposition as something in the way of the object, so you are getting to the object in an indirect manner. This is something that will be very important in the future, so make sure you start thinking about it. Now, the bad news is that a verb can be indirect in English and direct in French and vice versa. For example, the verb to wait, that we're going to see today, is indirect in English. You wait for something. But in French, you wait something. It is direct. I'll bring it up again with the examples. Another one is the verb to answer, répondre in French. In English, you answer someone. But in French, you answer at someone. Again, don't worry right now, I'll bring it up in the examples. Alright, so let's start conjugating. The verb vendre, which means to sell, and that we will use as a template, is conjugated in the present of the indicative as follows. Please repeat after me. Je vends, tu vends, il vend, nous vendons, vous vendez, ils vendent. I want you to identify the root of this verb with the D, even though technically the verb ends in DRE. This means that for our verb vendre, our ending is RE and our root is VEND. So the ending that you can use with all the other verbs are SS nothing, ONS easy, ENT. The verb vendre is direct. So an example could be je vends ma voiture, which means I sell my car. Following the same pattern, we can conjugate the verb attendre. The verb attendre, which means to wait, is conjugated in the present of the indicative as follows. Please repeat after me. J'attends, tu attends, il attend, nous attendons, vous attendez, ils attendent. Here our root was ATTEND, and we just added the endings SS nothing, ONS easy, ENT. Now, as I said, in French we wait something, direct, not for something, indirect. So here is an example. I wait for the bus. In French will be I wait the bus. So it will be j'attends le bus. Let's go to our verb répondre, which has the opposite object issue. First, the conjugation follows the same pattern. so this shouldn't pose any problem. The root of our verb is R, E with an accent, P-O-N-D. And we will add our endings, S-S, nothing, O-N-S, easy, E-N-T. Therefore, the verb répondre, which means to answer or to reply, is conjugated in the present of the indicative as follows. Please repeat after me. Je réponds, tu réponds, il répond, nous répondons, vous répondez, ils répondent. It may help to think of the verb to reply rather than to answer, or maybe to respond. Because in French we answer at someone, or reply to someone, or respond to someone. This means that we use the verb répondre with the preposition à, with the little accent. We will always use it unless you're saying I answer yes, je réponds oui. But that's very specific. Let's show two examples. I answer John will be je réponds à Jean. She answers the phone will be elle répond au téléphone. Here it is OUI because a, le, does not exist in French. Remember from our previous lesson? If not, you can jump back to lesson 3 at around 15 minutes. I'll give it to you. All right. Now that this is clear, at least I hope, let's jump to our verb vouloir and pouvoir. We saw in lesson 7 how to say I would like. This was the verb vouloir in the conditional present. But we still need to learn this verb in the indicative present. So our verb vouloir means to want, and it will use the same conjugation as the verb pouvoir, which means to be able to. Please note that the verb pouvoir is often translated in English using the modal can. When we say I can dance, it is the same as I am able to dance. This is where we use the verb pouvoir in French. So let's start with the verb vouloir. The verb vouloir is conjugated in the present of the indicative as follows. Please repeat after me. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent. Again. Je veux, tu veux, il veut, nous voulons, vous voulez, ils veulent. The verb pouvoir is conjugated in the present of the indicative as follows. Same thing. Please follow after me. Je peux, tu peux, il peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils peuvent. Again. Je peux, tu peux, il peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils peuvent. Now, we need to know how to use these verbs in sentences. First, both these verbs can be used with an infinitive. This means that we can say I can dance with the verb pouvoir. It would be je peux danser. But we can also say I want to dance using vouloir, and it would be je veux danser. Here are other examples using different persons. Marie veut manger means Mary wants to eat. Pierre peut marcher means Peter can walk. Nous voulons boire means we want to drink. Ils peuvent comprendre le français means they can understand French. Now, if we want to use these verbs with an object rather than an infinitive, we can actually only use the verb vouloir. because you can't be able to an object. If I said I can cake or she can a bicycle, you'd think I lost my marbles like Toodles. That was a sick hook reference, by the way, and I hope you got it. Anyhow, with the verb vouloir, you can indeed use an object, because you can want something. Using my same silly examples from before, we can say I want cake, which would be je veux du gâteau, and she wants a bicycle, which would be elle veut un vélo. You know what? Why don't you put in the comments below what you can do or what you want? This way, I'm sure you understood. And if you didn't because I speak too fast, remember that you can make me sound drunk by clicking on the gear below or above, depending on if you're on a phone or a computer, and select playback speed like 0.75 for example, and you can also try 0.5 for extra drunkenness. Alright, before I disappear back into the zeros and ones of the internet, I'd like to explain to you when we use the word oui and si for yes. See, this is one of the times where the French has a word for something that simply does not exist in English. When someone asks you in English, "Didn't you do your homework?" you can't reply with a single word because it's confusing. If you say yes, I can understand that yes, you didn't do your homework, or yes, you did your homework. And if you say no, it's the same problem. Didn't you do your homework? No. No, you didn't do it, or no, you did. Well, in French, that's when we can use si, which means actually I did. So basically, if someone asks you a regular positive question, like did you eat? Did you do your homework? Are you coming tonight? All this can simply be answered with oui or non. But if someone asks you a question that implies a negative, for example, didn't you eat? Or didn't you do your homework? Or are you not coming tonight? If you want to say that actually you did or do or will do these things, you will use si. And of course, if you want to agree with the fact that you didn't or don't or will not do something, you just say non. Non. Here are some quick examples in French. Est-ce que tu manges? Oui. Est-ce que tu ne manges pas? Si. Here you're correcting that you are actually eating. Est-ce que Marie aime Jean? Oui. Est-ce que Marie n'aime pas Jean? Si. Here you are correcting that actually Mary likes Jean. Alright. There are more examples in the exercises, which are on the very last page of the class notes, which you can download below. I hope this all made sense, but remember, you can always drunken me up with the slowest video speed if that helps. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Au revoir.